That annexation angered the nobility and the commoners alike because it was so full of misdeeds that because of doctrine of lapse, we all know that doctrine of lapse was initiated in India, and there were many princely states which were taken over by the Britishers. But in our the doctrine of lapse was done, or was, you can say, was initiated in a wrong way, right? And therefore, this angered the nobility. This angered the nobility and the soldiers alike. Also, the revolt in Lucknow began in May 1857, shortly after the uprising in Meerut and Delhi. Local sepoys of the British Indian Army, along with discontented civilians, rose against the British. So it was all about the Indians who participated in the British Army, along with the civilians. They all were against the British. And who was charging them? Who was actually commanding them? Begum Hazrat, who was the center of this army. She was the center of the army head there. Then the third point is the siege of the British residency. And it was one of the most significant events in the revolt of Awadh, and it was the siege of the British residency, where around 3,000 soldiers took part in the residency. The siege became symbolic of the determination of Indians and how a strategic leader who happened to be a woman can give a tough time to the Britishers. Then you have the British recapture of Lucknow, and the British forces under the leadership of Sir Havelock and Sir Colin Campbell, they just gave a tough fight, definitely, for like maybe more than 80 days. This recapturing session went on, and Begum Hazrat Mahal, with all her strategic capabilities, she started fighting the British, but ultimately she could not stand, and she had to give up, and she had to, in order to save the life of her son, in order to save her own life, she had to take refuge in Nepal. She took control of Lucknow, and she declared her son as the ruler, as the wali, and because he was a regent, because he was a minor, she declared herself as the regent. Then she allied herself with sepoys and zamindars and local people, because she believed that in order to create a huge army, we also need the help of local people. Always remember that she is a woman and she does not have a, you can say, a formal education. She belongs to the lower strata of society. She was a tawaif by profession, and she married Wajid Ali Shah, and later rose and was later given the title of Begum Hazrat Mahal. So she is a woman with no formal education, with no formal former experience of battlefield. And but the strategies she made and the siege of the British residency is considered as one of, you can say, the biggest achievements in the Indian first war of independence, was in 1857. And the residency remains a historical site and memorial. Okay. Then after this event, after she gave a tough fight to the Britishers, and after she had taken refuge in Nepal, in Kathmandu, the British started immediately. They started, distorting and dismantling her image. She was called as a rebel queen and a dangerous woman by them. Then uh, yeah. So first is the colonial suppression of the records, and which is that after the revolt of 1857, the British sought to erase and suppress the memory of Indian resistance leaders, especially those who challenged their authority effectively. First of all, Begum Hazrat Mahal is a woman, and secondly, she's a woman, and Muslim woman at that point of time, definitely they could hardly think outside of Parda, right? And she was a woman who not only challenged the male stereotype, the male patriarchal society, but also challenged the British colonial system. Okay, and definitely the Britishers never wanted her to be remembered, because glorifying her would eventually bring a bad name to the colonial mind which was traveling. Secondly, that there was this lack of media, lack of print media, unlike her male counterparts. She did not have an access to the formal institution of history writing or publishing, and therefore records are not at all available. They were not at all available the way they should have, the way in which leaders like Mangal Pandey, Tantia Tope, all these leaders are being glorified. But why not women? Only one woman that we can find about is Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, who has been talked about a lot, and that too with the help of, I guess, with the help of oral tradition, just like Begum Hazrat Mahal. In Lucknow and in Awadh, her bravery and leadership is part of our oral ballads and qissas. We all know qissa, kahaniya, Lok right? So these are the ways in which the history and the memory of Begum Hazrat as a medium they started thinking about it. Then her defiance and leadership became emblematic of Awadhi pride and resistance, helping to preserve her legacy outside the mainstream history books. Then many early Indian priests found focused more on male rulers. Like I said, that gender stereotypes were prevalent since time immemorial. If we talk about gender inequality right now, we should not forget that gender inequality was prevalent always, everywhere. So women like Begum Hazrat Mahal were not part of the dominant narratives, were remembered locally, not nationally or internationally, until feminist and subaltern historiography took place in the 20th century. It was much later that feminist, you can say, things about like feminist historians or these who started highlighting the colonial text, they started writing about people whose contributions were undermined. I have made a list of these women. The first women which I have included in the list is Mandar. And she's a young woman who was Lakshmi Bai's personal bodyguard. And laid down her life with Rani Lakshmi Bai fighting on the battlefield at the same time in which Lakshmi Bai died. Right? Then you have Jhalkari Bai. Jhalkari Bai was Rani Lakshmi Bai's body double, and she was also the founder of Durga Dal, which comprised of women fighters from the area. Then you have Uda Devi. Uda Devi was a sniper. She was such a sharp shooter that she killed 32 with her gun, and later she was also hanged to death. And she belonged to the Pasi caste, which is considered an untouchable. And she was never allowed to sit and come inside temples. Therefore, she would climb up the tree and she would, just shoot people from there. Then you have Azizul Nisa. Again, Azizul Nisa Bai was a courtesan. She was also a Taraif in Kanpur, and she was the center of arms and ammunition distribution, right? Rani Avanti Bai raised an army of 4,000, you can say, soldiers to fight the British when they illegally annexed Raigad. She fought in the battlefield on horseback, and when defeat was certain, she killed herself with her own sword. Asghari Begum, she was 45 years old, belonged to a well-to-do family, and was burnt alive organizing the armed rebellion in 1858. Rani Draupadi Bai of Dhar. He was an architect in the Dhar region, and British troops besieged the fort in 18. The struggle continued from 24th to 30th October. British soldiers entered the fort due to a crack in the wall, and she was also killed. Rani Ishwar Pari Devi of Tursipur was also a leader of the 1857 revolt and fought the Britishers valiantly, while her husband was a prisoner of the British court. The Rani collected a large force to fight the British and was considered a heroine during the freedom fight. So we have seen that we might have heard about these women some way while reading about history. We might have heard about these women, but But are they highlighted in the, you can say, in the general narrative? I guess the answer is no. Why? Because of gender stereotypes, because of gender inequality. These women and their names are not at all included. They are not at all highlighted anywhere. Then you have post-independence India rediscovery and honor. And here we have the tomb. Indian historians, they revisited the 1857 uprising with pride, and they highlighted neglected figures like Hazrat Mahal. And her tomb, which is located in Kathmandu, in the area of Jama Masjid, it still remains the center of under the control of Jama Masjid of Kathmandu. On 15th August in 1962, a park in Lucknow's Hazratganj area was renamed Inner Kona, and a marble memorial featuring brass plates with the Awadh Royal coat of arms was installed. This park continues to serve as a venue for events like Ram Leelas, the Dasera bonfires, and the Lucknow. In 1984, the Government of India issued a commemorative postage stamp recognizing her contributions to India's first war of independence. So we are seeing that much after the colonial narrative was set, much after the India got independence, much later to that time when Hazrat Mahal lost her life, when she was annexed and when she was embodied in Kathmandu, where she died in anonymity, the government of India recognized her contributions. It was 1962 when they issued a postage stamp in her honor and named the park at her name. Also, to celebrate her legacy, they also started a minority scholarship called Begum Hazrat Mahal National Minority Scholarship for talented girls belonging to the minority community, and which comes under guidelines of Maulana Azad Foundation. So, see, this is the Begum Hazrat Mahal Park, which is located in Lucknow, in the Hazratganj area. This is the tomb of Begum Hazrat Mahal, situated in Kathmandu. And the third is the postage stamp, which was issued by the government of India to commemorate her, glorify her, to commemorate her, you can say, contribution to commemorating it. Now, the break of her role as a just how her role as a leader has been interpreted over time. So, in feminist historiography, or you can say the first thing which comes is political agency in our Islam. The feminist historians regard Begum Hazrat Mahal as an early figure of female political empowerment. At a time when women's roles were largely restricted to domestic spheres, she boldly stepped into leadership during a national crisis, challenging both colonial authority and gender norms. So, what happens here is that gender norms and political domination is challenged by what Begum Hazrat Mahal did by coming out of nowhere and taking charge of an army. By she was also supposed to have fought in the battlefield on an elephant back. Okay, so this is how she started breaking, you can say, gendered stereotypes in a patriarchal society. Definitely, it is something which is not liked by the colonial mindset. This is something which would never be glorified by the colonial mindset. Then you have breaking gender barriers. We definitely broke all the gender barriers, leading troops, issuing proclamations, and acting as a regent for her son. These are roles are traditionally saved for the male counterparts, not for the women. And in post-colonial perspective, like I said, that she becomes a symbol of indigenous resistance. Post-colonial scholars view her as a counter-narrative to colonial history that often paints Indian rebels as chaotic and regressive. Okay, there was this storyline behind which calls Indian, you can say, these Indian rebels as chaotic and as regressive. They never valued them, they never respected them. But instead, her leadership is celebrated as a clear example of organized indigenous resistance to imperial domination because she made plans. She made plans to attack the territory, and therefore and remember, all this is done by a woman who has no formal education of warship. Okay, reclaiming. She also becomes she also comes out as a symbol for reclaiming national identity. Her story helps to reclaim a more diverse and inclusive narrative of freedom struggle, highlighting contributions beyond the elite male or Western model readers. Regional and cultural memory. Locally, she becomes a local, you can say, celebrity who's not at all celebrated outside of Uttar Pradesh, but simply revered and known in Uttar Pradesh because of the Lok because of kistas and kahanis and stories and ballads which are prevalent in the area. Also, despite her importance, she has not at all received the kind of acclamation which her male counterparts like Kanke Tope or Mangal Pandey have received. Okay, which often reflects on ongoing challenges in how historical memory is shaped, often favoring certain narratives over others due to gender, regional, or political focus. These challenges, these way in which the role has been identified suggest the need for more inclusive and balanced historical narrative, recognizing not just the better known figures but also many others, especially women, who played vital roles in India's struggle for independence. And the last part is that, how is it an enduring legacy? How do we celebrate and how should we celebrate what Begum Hazrat Mahal has given us? So Begum Hazrat Mahal stands as a powerful symbol of resistance, female leadership and anti-colonial defiance. Her courage in handling the revolt of 1867, her refusal to submit to British authority, and her remarkable role as a woman in command during patriarchal era makes her legacy both inspirational and significant. Though long marginalized due to gender bias and overshadowed by youth, celebrated figures, her contributions are being rediscovered and revalued today. Today, the efforts of historians, feminist scholars, cultural activists are helping to restore her rightful place in the story of India's first war of independence. As awareness grows, Begum Hazrat Mahal continues to inspire new generations, not just as a queen or warrior, but as a timeless emblem of resistance and leadership. So, thank you for being patient and listening to the presentation. I hope that I made my point. I hope that all of you can agree with me.
Yes, madam. Thank you. Thank you, madam. We extended our heartful thanks to Dr. Shahnur Shah for delivering such an insightful and energizing lecture. Our valuable knowledge and your valuable knowledge and clear presentation greatly enriched our understanding of the topic. We truly appreciate the time and effort you took to share your expertise with us. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
এবার আমাদের অনুষ্ঠানের শেষ পর্যায়ে এসে পৌঁছেছে। আমরা ডক্টর ভাস্বতী মুখোপাধ্যায়, হেড অফ দ্য ডিপার্টমেন্ট হিস্ট্রি বিভাগ, ওনাকে আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি ভোট অফ থ্যাঙ্কস দেওয়ার জন্য।
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my great privilege and honor to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of organizing committee. We have come to the closing part of our first day academic discussion of the two-day national seminar organized by the Department of Political Science in collaboration with Department of History, Department of Philosophy, Women's Cell and IQAC of Shitananda College. Today's academic session has been a wonderful confluence of ideas, insights, and inspiration, and it would not have been possible without the collective effort of many individuals. At the very outset, I convey my heartfelt thanks to our GB President Abu Tahir sir, though he is not present here, but he lent his constant support behind every program. As always, our Honorable Principal Sir, Dr. Shamu Mahali, has lent his wholehearted support to organize the seminar successfully. Thank you, sir, for your cooperation. I would like to thank all the GB members of our college for necessary cooperation. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers, Dr. Afzal Hussain, ex-principal, Shitalkuchi College, Coach Bihar, Dr. Haider Ali Mia, Associate Professor in Political Science, Bahawalpur Girls College, and Dr. Shahanun Shan, Faculty Member, Department of English, Women's College, Aligarh Muslim University. Your thought-provoking presentation has truly enlightened us. You have spent your valuable time with us. We are really grateful to you, sir and ma'am. Now, I would like to thank our host departments, Department of Political Science, Department of History, Department of Philosophy, IQAC, and Women's Cell of Shitananda College. A special thank to, I would like to convey my special thank to Dr. Mohammad Elaluddin, Head of the Department Political Science and convener of this national seminar. Without his earnest effort, the seminar could not be organized. Special thanks to Dr. Nilanjana Nayak and Professor Srijan Dash, who worked tirelessly that the event ran smoothly. I would like to thank all the faculty members, non-teaching staffs, and of course the student union of our college for their active participation. The technical team, especially the name of Rabindranath Pramanik of Physics Department, should be mentioned. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our dear students for their active participation and patience. Thank you once again.
ধন্যবাদ ভাস্বতী ম্যাডামকে ভোট অফ থ্যাঙ্কস দেওয়ার জন্য। আজকের মতো 7 তারিখের সেমিনার আজকের মতো শেষ হলো।